Welcome to Commander Central, an EDA podcast that, like the featured tribes in C-17, scratch like a cat, breathe fire like a dragon, play with our wands like a wizard, and like a vampire, we do on occasion suck.
I didn't think it was going to get me, but it got me.
Get your mind out of the gutter. That's not how I meant it. I am Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
Commander 2017. I'm pumped for this. This is like the best spoiler time of the year for us.
And it's early.
It is, right. Like, usually we wait till November, but we get it. This is Christmas in August for us.
I'm so disappointed because I always get them as a birthday present for myself in November, and now I'm not getting them.
This will be a
Same here.
super early birthday present for you then.
I don't think my wife will go for that one.
There's only 4, though. I mean,
That's true. You can make a case that it's a bargain this year.
I could, aside from the fact that they're still just as expensive as it was to get 6 of them.
Pretty much. Before we get into that, I'm going to continue telling stories of Pokemon Go because I have another good one from this week. So on Saturday, my wife is getting ready to go back to school. She's a teacher, so she had stuff to do and she was stressed. So I said, don't worry about it. Just sleep in and I'll take our son out of the house and we'll be gone all day. So we won't come home till like his bedtime at 8. So you have the whole day to, prep or just relax, whatever you want. So we got up in the morning and went and had breakfast and ran a few errands and just goofed around. And eventually after lunch, we wanted to do some Pokemon Go. So I checked the local Pokemon Go group that's like scheduling, raids at different times on the legendary birds that are out right now. And he didn't have a Moltres. And there was a raid coming up at like this church, not the same church as last Pokemon Go story, mind you.
okay.
So, we'll go to this one at like 2 o'clock or whatever it was. And we were 20 minutes early. So we parked the car and decided to just walk around the neighborhood. There was a park nearby and see what we can catch. And there was a rare Falafi on the radar, which is, I think, a sheep-looking Pokemon. So he didn't have it. So we walked over to the park to get it. And as we got there, kind of walking the other direction to the same location, there were 3, I think they were college-age girls, also catching this Falafi. And it was hot out, and it's like 2 in the afternoon. And so they were dressed as college girls dress in the summer when it's hot out, and like ridiculously cut off jean shorts, and one had like a halter top on, and which is like fine, but it's probably not appropriate for me to be hanging out with college girls dressed that age, considering that I'm their dad's age. And again, I wouldn't have been, not that I was going to hang out with them, except for my son, who's 10, sees they're playing Pokemon Go and starts talking to them, and they were into the conversation. So like they start comparing Pokedexes with him and talking about the Falafi and what they've caught. And he mentions we're going to go to the raid in like 10 minutes, and they had no idea what that was. So he shows them the raid pass and like says, come on with us and we can go catch some Ultras. And they say, sure. So we have to walk back to this church with these 3 college girls, my son like talking the whole way. And I'm trying to maintain a safe, like not creepy distance from them the whole time. So it doesn't, I don't know what I thought, but like I realized I just shouldn't be walking too close to these college girls in super short jean shorts.
Probably a smart call.
So we get up to the church where the group is going to meet, and people have since shown up. And the first thing I see, there's like 2 moms there with their kids, my son's age roughly, that immediately give me like this sideways stink eye when they see me walking up with these 3 girls and my son. And I heard at one point an audible, ugh, like directed my way.
No.
And the entire time we're there catching doing the raid, like everyone's on their phones, like, doing the thing. They kept like glaring at me and giving me the look the whole time we're there. And I'm intentionally standing like 10 feet away from them and my son. And he keeps saying like, Dad, come over here. Dad, come on over here. Come closer. And I'm like trying to be inconspicuous. So we finish the raid, and he catches the Moltres, and one of them catches it, and the other 2 don't, whatever. Well, there's another raid then, like 1 block away at a building that's going. So everyone's like, let's go down there. So like, and they were like, yeah, sure. So we had to walk down like a block to the next raid with these 2 moms the entire time side-eyeing me as I'm trying to maintain my distance from these 3 college girls. I didn't hear any more ugh or sounds like that, but so that was my exciting Saturday story of being viewed as a creeper. Not by the girls. I think they managed to I managed to keep a respectable distance and not my son was having fun with them and they were super nice to him. And
I think they realized that you're dad to the kids, so you're you're going to be there.
I wasn't some random dude walking up to them in the park like, hey, you girls want to play Pokemon Go? You can have a ride in my van. Like it wasn't that. So I think they were, barely noticing me. That was fine. But man, those two moms absolutely noticed I was walking at least near them, and they were not amused.
I feel bad for you. I really do. I'm glad I've never been in that situation.
The only time that someone said, oh, you were walking around with 3 college girls in super short shorts, and I feel bad for you.
Yeah, well, at our age, it's at that point, you just don't get away with that stuff.
Exactly. So that's my Pokemon Go story for this week. Let's see what adventures I have next week, because we're going to go out again on Saturday.
I might have to add a Pokemon Go tag to our show, see if we get more listeners.
Get some Pokemon Go fans to show up and listen to stories about me being accused of being a pedophile or following around college girls. So Max, any news this week?
We do have news. Today, the Mothership posted an article about Ixalan, and they talk about how we can explore Ixalan by exploring the real world. And so next week, they're sending out essentially game pieces to content creators, pros, WotC staff to take with them to events and other places they go. They register these game pieces on geocaching.com, so I think they're tagged with a location chip somehow.
Yeah, I think it's coordinates you get to start with, I believe. So hopefully we'll get ours in next week and we can start the whole process.
Yep. And long story short, each piece has a certain destination or amount of miles it has to travel. When it does, a preview card will be revealed probably on the Mothership due to all this.
Interesting.
So we'll get spoilers pretty early. It sounds like.
As long as they're moving around.
I guess not really. It's mid-August already.
So end of August, early September.
Yeah.
I wonder what prompted them to do something like this.
They said something about how in Ixalan it's going to be about exploring, kind of like how original Zendikar was the exploring set.
Adventure world kind of plane. So
I think they're trying to do that with Ixalan since Battle for Zendikar bombed so bad.
Yeah,
that aspect.
Sure, yeah. It completely got away from what everyone liked about Zendikar for the most part.
Yep. And for all you standard players, it is rotating soon, so don't even worry about it.
Right, yeah.
Right. But what they also talked about in this article was that later in the year, each of the 4 creature tribes from Ixalan are also going to get their own trackable game pieces for the second Ixalan set.
What are the creature tribes?
We have dinosaurs.
Oh, nice.
Pirates, vampires, and merfolk. Those are the 4 predominant tribes we'll see on Ixalan.
We haven't had a good merfolk collection in a while.
Very long time.
I mean, we had merfolk pop up in Zendikar, but we haven't had a strong... Original Zendikar had quite a few.
Lorwyn
had a lot.
Theros had a couple. They had Master Waves.
Yeah. I hope they don't print a horrible merfolk card for Modern, because it's just... I don't like playing against merfolk to begin with, and if it gets worse, it's just going to make my life a nightmare.
So a Modern legal true name nemesis popping up in Ixalan would be a bad situation, you think?
I think it would be a bad situation all the way up until Wizards of the Coast realizes Banhammer, and it's gone.
I think it'll be pretty... I'm no Modern expert, but it feels like it'll be pretty strong in Modern for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, with dinosaurs, though... And
That's awesome.
It just popped in my head. I want to see an old man in a white, tuxedo suit with a cane and a hat, and I'm going to call it the Jurassic Park deck. That's exactly what it's going to be.
Some kind of John Hammond reference. Yes. That would be pretty fantastic.
That's great.
So any feedback this week, Chris?
Yes. We heard from a Juan Fernando Maldonado. Sorry if I butchered that right there. Garcia, who commented on the return of us when we posted on Facebook. And to quote him, he said, "Can't wait for the new episodes and hopefully a mimeoplasm episode." So Dana, this popped in my mind. You had a mimeoplasm build at one time. Would you like to delve into it for a bit?
Sure, we can talk about it for a second. I had a mimeoplasm deck that I still have. I just don't play it anymore. It originally was a Vorash the Hunter deck with a +1 counters theme. So it was all creatures that did things with +1 counters or added them or whatever. But Vorash was just so slow, it just didn't do what it wanted to do. So in those same colors, there wasn't a ton of other options, so I'll try Mimeoplasm. And he wound up being really, really strong in that deck. He didn't do much early on, but like late game, someone has a Baneslayer Angel in their graveyard and there's some other, big beater, and I could turn it into a Baneslayer with like 6 counters on it. That was fantastic. So it was a fun deck. I liked him a lot. The traditional strategy is usually some kind of a Reanimator build.
Which I can see.
Yeah, and that's the one like people cheat, some kind of insane creature into their graveyard on turn 2 with Entomb or something, and then make Mimeoplasm a copy of that. At the GP, though, I saw somebody in a pod playing a Mimeoplasm Ooze tribal build.
Find that very interesting right there.
I didn't watch for too long, but like there was definitely a Necrotic Ooze out at one point and a Scavenging Ooze. I don't really know how many total oozes there are in those colors, but I think there's enough probably to build a deck. Probably not a great deck, but like if you want to build a goofy tribal deck, I think Mimeoplasm and Experiment Kraj are the 2 legendary options you have.
Okay. It could turn into like your Sphinx build. You kept telling us this is not going to be
Right.
good. This is not going to be good. And next thing you know, well,
It was
hey,
good.
guess what? It is good.
It was your nemesis.
It's my nemesis.
So Dana's correct. There are officially 2 legendary creature oozes, Experiment Kraj and Mimeoplasm. The 3rd legendary creature ooze is Hanweir the Writhing Township, which is the transformed version of the land.
Okay.
So you can't run it as your general, but it is a Eldrazi ooze.
An Eldrazi ooze.
So we have talked, like, I don't know if we'll do a specific Mimeoplasm show, but one of the things we've discussed doing is picking a theme or a tribe or something and all doing like individual deck builds and then comparing them head to head and see who built the better, bird tribal deck or the better angel tribal deck or whatever. And we could do a Mimeoplasm deck at some point with that too. So we'll figure something out and at least do some Mimeoplasm trivia coming up here at some point.
I'd be game for that.
That'd be great.
And to all our listeners out there, we would love to hear from you. You can find us at Twitter at CMDR Central or search us up on Facebook at Commander Central. Please feel free to just comment anything, speak your mind, whatever comes to mind for you. I'm an all-format player, and I would love to hear from everybody.
All right. Well, let's talk Commander 2017. This is our Super Bowl Sunday. This is Oscar night. This is Girl Scout Cookie Day if you're a Commander player. And we got a yum Thin Mints, exactly.
I don't eat sweets, so I don't know what you guys are all about.
You savage.
And the shortbread ones too.
Shortbread ones are really good too.
I got to take that back. Last year, my wife bought some, and they were the s'mores ones. I don't know if you guys
I
got
have not
those.
had those.
They tasted like s'mores, but I could only eat like one because I'm not a sweets eater. But they were decent.
So this is now the Pokemon Go / Girl Scout Cookie podcast.
We're treading into unwelcomed waters there. Let's get back on track.
Yeah, make sure you support your Girl Scouts.
So we have 4 different tribal decks. Cats, vampires, dragons, and wizards. Each different color, 2 colors, 1 2 color, 2 3 colors, and a 5 color. So first of all, let's just talk about the decks really briefly. Which one of these do you like the best? Do you like the least? And we'll start with Max.
I think I'm going to be picking up the cat deck.
So why the cat deck? Why is that the one that jumps out at you?
It's 2 colors. There's the first reason. I'm a 2-color mage. And it just, maybe not the face card I want, but there are some other legendary creatures in there that I'm interested in building decks around.
It does have Mari's Wake as a reprint, which is, if
Great.
you want one, that right there, if you were going to get one anyway, and the cat deck gets you that card that's already roughly a $10-ish card.
I do like how they reprint certain cards like that every now and then. Like I do believe last year they reprinted the Burgeoning and stuff like that.
Last year was weird because Burgeoning was literally just in Conspiracy 2 Take the Crown like a month before Commander came out.
Yes, that is true.
I liked, I think it was on Twitter, Jason Alt of Brainstorm Brewery wrote, these guys did a really nice job. Good job printing Black Market. This was like, 2 years ago. Wizards like, oh, you like Black Market? Here it is again. No. I mean, that's not my point. Black Market.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they do. Like when you print, there's a reprint, you're like, oh, cool, that got reprinted. And then like they do it again and do it again and do it again. So I don't know if that means Mari's Wake's going to start popping up 3 or 4 different times.
Well, to comment on your price point, right now Mirari's Wake is sitting in the over $10 range.
So it's like almost half the deck value.
The conspiracy printing was 17, and the commander one is right now marketed at 12.
So yeah, that's going to take up, close to half of your deck.
Now, is it the same art?
Same art as the conspiracy one, so it's
Okay.
not the original Judgment art.
All right.
Cool. So Chris, how about you? Which one were you liking?
I gotta say vampires. Just the Edgar Markov, man. Flavor-wise, and his abilities they speak to me. Plus, I love my favorite deck by far is my Alesha deck, which is the Mardu colors.
Sure. Great art on that Edgar card too.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm leaning towards liking the vampires deck the most as well. Even though I don't love the other two generals in the deck, the other two commanders, but I like Edgar quite a bit. That will probably be the one I pick up. So let's get into these decks in a little bit. Let's start with cats. And we might as well start with a face card of the cat deck, and we'll talk about Arabo, Roar of the World. And we're going to go through all of the commanders here, all the new ones anyway. And I think next week we'll touch on all the new support cards and creatures, whatever else in the deck. But we're just going to do commanders here and talk about whether or not we'll build a deck with them or use them as part of a 99 and what we're going to do. So Arabo, Roar of the World is a cat avatar. Costs 3 green and white, so 5 total. He's our first Eminence creature. Eminence is, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if Arabo, Roar of the World is in the command zone or on the battlefield, another target cat you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn. In addition to that, whenever another cat you control attacks, you may pay 1 green-white. If you do, it gains trample and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. That ability is only usable when Arabo is in play. But the cat getting +3/+3 is usable from turn 1 onward. So, thumbs up or thumbs down on Arabo?
Thumbs up from me.
Thumbs up for me as well.
Thumbs up for me as well. What do you guys like about Arabo?
I like pretty much everything about him. The only downfall I see to him is that he really has to be your commander or in a tribal theme deck for cats. Due to the fact that all his abilities do not target himself, they target another cat.
I think for sure, his Eminence ability is so useful too. You just don't want to not take advantage of that early in the game. It does something, I guess, as one of the 99, but I think you definitely want to try to have him as your general. Particularly because it works underneath the mana curve. If you drop Savannah Lions, which are eroded to be a cat, that's a 1-drop for a 2/1. If you play Savannah Lions on turn 1, on turn 2, that's a 5/4 you're swinging with.
Wow.
He gives everything giant growth just by virtue of being in your deck. Yeah, just being in your deck, he's buffing everything. So usually you're looking at it in my Recce deck, he's a 3-drop, and I have a couple 1-drops and a couple 2-drops in the deck, but even if they're in my hand, I tend to not play them right away because I'd rather wait till turn 4 when Recce's out in turn 3. Turn 4, play a 1-drop and a 2-drop and draw a couple cards. I want to use this ability. In this case, you have no reason to hold back. You might as well get those 1 and 2 and 3-drop lions, cats out and giant growth them next turn when you swing.
Right.
That's a super useful ability, and he's a win condition by himself. When you play that cat, if you say you play a 4/4 cat or a 5/5 cat, you play Arabo on turn 5. On turn 6, that cat gets +3/+3, so it's up to a 7/7 or 8/8, and then it doubles when it swings. So you're swinging for 16 trample with a cat that you've played before your commander was even out.
Yep.
That's insane.
His ability too, with pumping him, actually save you. So it costs you 8 mana overall to drop an overwhelming stampede after that to give all your guys an additional so much.
Right. So you use his ability, buff your guy up to gross and to already hideous numbers, and then throw an overwhelming stampede down, particularly after turn 9 or 10 or something.
Yep.
And all your guys are getting +30/+30 or something stupid like that. Or even a berserk. Even if you just throw a berserk on something after you've doubled it prior to giving it +3/+3, people are always in range to get killed with this guy out.
Yeah. I do like that his pump ability is only 3 mana.
That's very cheap.
The last thing we saw close to that was Ronus for 2 and a green, and it only gave +2/+0.
Yep.
So this is huge in my opinion.
Zenigod does a similar
To
thing.
their power, yeah.
But just power, right? Not this is also toughness.
Yep.
And you can do it for multiple. Like Zenigod is one creature. This you can do for if you pay the mana, you can do it for 2 creatures
Or
or 3
or a single creature multiple times.
Right. That's true. Right. And additionally, you're in a deck with, like we just said, coming with Mari's Wake for doubling your mana. I didn't even think of that though. You mentioned I didn't even think of doing it to the same creature multiple times.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
that's strong.
because you force them to have to try and chump all that one guy, but
And they
all your
keep-
other guys just come in from the
But
side.
and even if they chump it though, it has trample.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
And-
you can't really chump it.
I think though how it's worded, you have to do it before blockers are
I believe so.
declared because it's
Yes.
when they attack.
Yep.
Yeah, so it'd be an attack trigger similar to my
Alesha.
Alesha.
And I could see there could be, it wouldn't surprise me if there was some weird ruling that you can only use it one time. Maybe we'll have to look at that and verify that or not.
I'd be shocked if there were, because a couple of the other legendary new legends have that you can only use it once
Sure.
per turn on your turn.
Usually there's a caveat there. So yeah.
Or if there's some weird ruling where you can only use it once per cat that attacks.
Yeah, maybe.
Similar to how some of the energy abilities work in Amonkhet. When you attack, you can only use it technically once. You can't use it multiple times.
The one other thing I like about him is when you think about tribes, you think about the lords. You have Lord of Atlantis, Goblin
Yep.
King. I think there's only 2 generals out of all the 4 decks that are borderline lord, where they actually pump your creatures.
Yeah, they tried to actually get creative in how they buff your guys.
This would be one, and I think I'd call Edgar a
Yeah.
lord. But the other 2, the wizard face card and
The
The
dragon.
dragon
the
one.
dragon one, don't do anything to pump your guys up
Right.
like a lord should.
They do it in an interesting, creative way. I'm really happy with this card. So let's move on to some more cats.
Yeah.
The next one we'll do is the only monocolored new commander in the set. It's Balin Wandering Knight, 2 and white, so 4 total for a legendary creature cat knight. He has first strike, and Balin the Wandering Knight has double strike as long as 2 or more equipments are attached to it. But the knockout home run ability here is 1 and a white. Attach all equipment you control to Balin. Thumbs up or thumbs down for Balin?
I'm giving this my 4 thumbs up, my 2 fingers and my 2 toe thumbs.
I'm right along with you. I got all 4 thumbs going up on this.
I cannot compete with toe thumbs. Nor will I try to, but I will give Balin a thumbs up for sure. He's a better Kemba.
I would go with that completely.
He fixes the Kemba problem, which we have a friend who has a Kemba deck who he plays usually once a week. And the problem with Kemba becomes clear very quickly. Once Kemba dies that second or third time, you can't re-equip him. Or you take your full turn to cast Kemba for 1 because you have so little ramp and white.
Yep.
And then the next turn you spend your whole turn equipping Kemba, and if somebody kills him in response to the equip or whatever, you then do it again. Like, it's very easy to make it so the Kemba player can't really play Magic. And 2 mana to equip everything, whether it's that stupid Argentum armor for 6 or
Batter Skull for 5.
right, and you just do it for 2 mana and put them all on him.
Right. This card makes you want to play the big expensive equipment that you don't normally run, because who has 12 mana to cast
Right.
and equip an Argentum armor in mono white?
Whereas here you can drop it for 6, equip it for 2. That's totally doable.
That's float your mana off a Soul Ring and save a Plains. That's all you
Right.
got to do.
I see him as almost like a sneak attack Voltron general. You have
Yeah.
5 or 6 equipment out. You get them in, attach them all, and a lot of your good equipment gives you haste or
Mhm.
trample. And then he's come swinging in with his double strike. He could, easily hit you for 40, even though he only has to hit you for 21 if you were your commander.
You're safe against Kemba. Like, there's those times, Kemba dies and I can look over the board and go, okay, I don't have to worry, because even if he plays Kemba this turn and equips Lightning Greaves to give it haste, he can equip 1 piece of equipment or something after casting Kemba. There's just not enough mana to make it a threat, so I'm safe for a turn. This isn't the case here with Balin. You guys always have to assume if he's got a haste enabler, Balin next turn can be swinging at me for 22 or something dumb
Right.
like that. And it doesn't take much equipment with double strike to put you at command damage in a hurry.
What I'm looking forward to is seeing the combat tricks with him, because you can use his ability at
Instant speed.
So
Absolutely.
I'll swing in with my hasted Balan with, Greaves, and since you're attaching all, I don't think it targets, so you can use it with, even though it has Shroud.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right, yeah. You get around Shroud abilities because it's
So it
attached.
would be very similar to the Zur the Enchanter ability.
Right, or how Bruno Light of Alabaster works.
I see it. Oh, I have all these random equipment. I don't have enough to do it, but I'll swing in.
Yep.
And at the last minute, I'll put all 5 swords on him.
Or I'm swinging at one person with my Balin with 2 things on it. I'm swinging at somebody else with this, whatever that has 1 equipment on it. Someone goes to remove the second creature. Well, you might as well just suck the equipment over off him onto Balin.
Right.
So, yeah, combat tricks are nice. He also plays really well not as the commander. Like, if I was running Kemba or Shram, this is in my Kemba or Shram deck for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I would. It's almost got to come in
Yeah,
just for the ability that it is playing with equipment.
right. Or even like the red-white equipment deck. I've seen a couple different. I've seen Tajik builds that are heavy on equipment, or Angus Crow that are heavy on equipment, or there's the Metalcraft guy whose name I remember, who is the Jorkadine, the Prevailer. I mean, I'm running this in Jorkadine for sure. Or even Rafik. I've seen Rafik builds that are heavily focused on swords and hammers and stuff. I'd run him in Rafik for sure.
Right, because people don't like Rafik, so they'll just...
And he's what a great backup plan after Rafik's been killed 4 times, and you have 3 swords in play and locks on Warhammer and Lightning Greaves. Oh, hey, I just top decked Balin. Now I can swing at you for 40.
An obnoxious amount.
Yeah. This is like such a versatile, and they made him mono white, so he's super versatile.
Yes.
Just an excellent all around card. They did a fantastic job with Balin. The one thing that confused me at first is in the art he's like a tiger, so he's very orange looking, and his head is turned sideways. At first, when I saw it, I thought he had like a pumpkin head. I was trying to figure out
that would be
Oh.
awesome.
I was trying to figure out why the cat knight was wearing like a pumpkin helmet.
So were you searching spoilers for like a pumpkin-headed equipment or something?
Well, I was actually that. I'm like, so does that mean he's from Lorwyn because there was pumpkin stuff in lore? I actually was like wondering that. And he's not in the lore anywhere, although Bant maybe, but who knows? He's not a historical character, so he could be something from the future or that we'll see in a future set, or they just liked the character and didn't want to make him somebody we've seen before. So moving on through the cat deck, what else do we have?
We have Miri, Weatherlight Duelist. Legendary creature, Cat Warrior. Her CMC is 1 colorless, 1 green, and 1 white. First strike. Whenever Miri, Weatherlight Duelist attacks, each opponent can't block with more than 1 creature this combat. As long as Miri, Weatherlight Duelist is tapped, no more than 1 creature can attack you each combat. And she's a 3/2. So, thoughts on her? Thumbs up, thumbs down, to the side, around
Thumbs
in
up
circles.
for me.
Thumbs up for me.
I give her the thumb to the side.
Side thumb. So why the side thumb, Chris?
Well, basically, I think that you have to build around her pretty good. Yes, her ability allows you to go super tight aggro, annoying aggro with her.
Mm-hmm.
But her other ability, where it keeps it from coming back at you, it almost means that you would have to attack every single turn.
You're definitely rewarded for being aggressive.
Yes.
So she has first strike for 1, so you're able to be a little bit more sloppy when you attack because she deals combat damage first. And they only have 1 blocker on top of that, so it's very easy for you to look at the math. Sometimes you're swinging at someone, you're like, okay, they have 4 blockers, so they could do this, they could do that. Well, they want to trade here, or well, they want to be safe here. This one is pretty easy. You just look at it and go, which blocker are they going to pick? And are they going to want to throw it at Miri with first strike or something else? So it allows you to be kind of careless when you attack. And then because if she's tapped, only 1 creature can attack you, usually you're afraid of going like alpha strike at somebody if they have a big board presence because they have to, they can crack back and kill you. It eliminates a lot of crackback then, because if Miri's tapped, they can swing at you with 1 thing, and if that thing's a Rafik with swords on it, well, that's different. But if it's not, if they've got like 15 tokens and you're worried about it, well, that solves that problem. They can swing with one of them.
True.
She's a warrior too, and that's relevant
It is very relevant.
because I've seen multiple different Naya warrior builds. The Semet, the Naya Semet, well, she's red green with the activated ability that's white,
Yep.
is a warrior. I've seen a couple different warrior decks. If you're aggro warrior, same thing. Like her just in the deck
It's good.
to suddenly make a bunch of your guys tough to block, well, almost impossible to block in a lot of cases.
Yep.
That's excellent.
What I actually kind of have planned for her is figuring out a way to tap and untap her on demand, so I can, if an equipment gives her vigilance, I can swing in. You can't block with more than one
Right.
creature, and then when you go to declare attackers, I'm gonna put in something that allows me to tap her, just so you can only attack with one person.
But they would think, like, okay, is he going to do that or not? Do I even want to deal with it? Am I going to
Right.
swing somewhere else? It does add some tricks.
Yep.
It makes vigilance maybe not great.
Right.
If you unless you have a trick in hand, it makes vigilance
Yeah.
not great. But I like combat tricks too. That's very cool.
Yes, and there's multiple equipments that allow you to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not even like in my benefit. It's more of a, oh, you have the ability to take out the guy to my left, but I need him.
Right.
So I'm going to tap Miri to make sure you can only attack with one guy versus 5.
If I should mention that this is the third Miri card we've gotten ever. She was a mono green legend originally back during the Weatherlight Saga stuff, and then we got a Future Sight version of her, actually an alt timeline version of her that was mono black, Miri the Cursed. So this is the third Miri card we've had, and I think it's kind of the start of a hint of a bunch of Dominaria stuff. We get like 6 or 7 cards from Dominaria and lore in this set, and we're going to Dominaria this spring, so it feels like they're spreading some breadcrumbs here for us.
It really makes me wonder with Miri, and there's another card which I'm sure we'll talk about next week. Maybe going back in time type of deal.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier off mic, and I had never thought of that, but they've done that in the past. Like Kamigawa's set, 4,000 years ago or so. I keep assuming we're going to see like Dominaria now post Time Spiral, but we don't have to. That doesn't have to be the case. We could technically go back and like see like a hidden chapter of the Weatherlight Saga for all we know.
Telling you, my conspiracy theory is going to be true. Everything from Weatherlight forward is Urza seeing the future as if he finishes the Brother War.
So this is like it's all the darkest
Yeah.
timeline. Or Jace is
Jace doesn't exist.
So much Jace hate.
Well, I do like the one thing I think I would like seeing more than going back to Dominaria is going back to Dominaria's past and seeing like another chapter from one of these cool stories.
Bring me more slivers.
No.
Yes.
No.
Don't need more slivers. No one needs more slivers.
You always need more slivers, unless they're the ones that you get in your thumb, because that's never a good deal.
So in your toe thumbs.
Yeah, my toe thumbs. Oh, that's an even worse deal, man. I pity the fool who gets that.
We have one more cat.
He is Nazan, revered bladesmith. 4 generic mana, a green and a white for a legendary creature, Cat Artificer. Hello, wizards. This should be blue-red, not green-white for the Artificer, but I digress. He's a 5/4. When Nazan enters the battlefield, search your library for an equipment card and reveal it. If you reveal a card named Hammer of Nazan, which we'll talk about next week, this way, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand and shuffle your library. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you may tap target creature defending player controls. Thoughts? Thumbs up, thumbs down, middle? What's going on?
I'm going with the middle thumb again.
I'm gonna go double thumbs up for Nazan.
I'm going double thumbs down.
Ooh, really?
Yes.
So why thumbs down?
6 mana for a Stoneforge Mystic
6 mana's a lot.
is not great. You can't cheat the equipment into play except for the hammer, his
Right.
hammer. In our meta, we see a lot of hexproof, so the tapping thing, in my opinion, doesn't.
The tapping thing's pretty meh.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that'd be good if you had a big creature, like a token-based deck, but how much equipment do you run in a token deck so each of your tokens get an equipment so you can tap? That's just too hard to figure out right now. So in my opinion, he's not great. I don't know what you would use him for.
So why the side thumb, Chris?
I mean, the tutor up is just nice. Yes, Max, hinted on Stoneforge Mystic, but having another one that in your deck that you could tutor up in equipment is nice. As I have to agree with you on that ability, I really don't like it where when they attack you can tap or whatever. And 6 mana for 5/4 really is not my idea of a amazing general.
I hear everything you're saying. I think those are all valid points. However, what I really dig about Nazan is he feels like this first support general where the point really isn't to have him do great things, but he as a bladesmith, as an artificer, as someone who makes weapons for other people, his job is to make a handful of other cool creatures in your deck do something absurd. So what I like about him is you cast him for 6, and that's definitely a lot, and you go grab your Blade of Selves and equip it and swing with Nazan, and you make 3 copies, all of which that die. But when they're made, they trigger your ability to go tutor up equipment. So then you go grab the hammer and you grab a sword and you grab lightning greaves. And assuming he survives, you do it again next turn and do it again next turn. And you've filled your hand with a bunch of different equipment. And then you also are running in this deck. You're running Balin and you're running Kemba and you're running Shram and you're running maybe Miri and you've got a Pure Steel Paladin and you've got a Stoneforge Mystic and you have there's a giant that tutors equipment.
Yep.
And there's a couple core duelists and you've got cores that care about being equipped and there's enough other things that that normally, you can enlighten tutor and grab a piece of equipment, but with Nazan, knowing that you can grab that Blade of Selves right away, but even if you don't, you just get 1 equipment, Nazan is going to enable you to do crazy things with your other guys that care about equipment. You can blink him with Conjurer's Closet. You can double the ETB ability with Panharmonicon. I don't know if it's not going to be broken or anything, but I just like the idea a lot of this commander whose whole job it is to equip other people with cool stuff. I think flavor-wise, that's a really cool, unique thing we've not really seen before.
I do like how you bring that up. After you say that, now he seems more of a utility piece.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he can go for whatever you need at that moment.
He's the commander you shouldn't be scared of. You should be scared of what he does for these other pieces that you're not really prepared. Like, okay, is he going to top deck a Stoneforge? Is he going to top deck that Kemba that's going to... And you can tweak what equipment you grab for whatever you have in your hand.
Right.
I just think it's a neat concept.
That is a really good way to think about him. And I did just do a quick little search. There are 7 creatures that specifically say search for an equipment card on them.
Is that including him?
That's including him.
Okay.
So that's 6 of them are in white.
Yep.
And he has some green. And then Godo.
Right, in red.
Yep. Is in red.
But then you also, you've got Metalcraft stuff and Affinity guys. And so you have other things that can play off that as well. I just think there's enough things you can make, even like Etched Champion. It would, since you're going to be grabbing equipment, you have enough artifacts that you can work around that as well. I think he'll be cool.
Yeah.
He's fair too. He's never going to be broken ever. There's just not going to be a way to break this card, but he'll be fun. So I think, is that the last cat, I believe?
That is the last cat.
So I think the monocolored one threw us off a little bit.
So yeah, I think it did. And actually, once that was previewed, I thought we might get some more of those, some more new mono generals mixed in, but that was the only one.
That was the only one.
Sad day.
So what's next? Should we do dragons next?
Durgans.
Timmy is excited.
Timmy! So we're going to start this off with the Dragon. He is 4 and Wooburg, so that's 4 generic and white, blue, black, red, green. Legendary creature Dragon Avatar. Eminence. As long as the Dragon is in your command zone or on the battlefield, the other dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. He has flying. He's a 10/10. His other ability is whenever 1 or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, then you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Thoughts?
So I'm going to I'll give him the side thumb.
I have to go thumbs up with my left hand and thumbs down with my right hand.
That's confusing.
Yeah.
How about
so
you?
I will explain this.
We'll come back to that.
I think that equates to the side thumb, but we'll come back to that. I'm going thumbs down.
All right. So Chris, let's talk about all these thumbs.
Okay. So My thumbs up approach is no. We're gonna do thumbs down approach first. Let's
Okay,
go that
all
way
right.
so I don't get too far ahead of myself. Thumbs down. As a general himself, I dislike him horribly. Too much mana for not having a good enough ability. Now for thumbs up, I believe that he is an amazing piece in a Scion deck. Being able to tutor up before combat, swing in with 2 or 3 dragons, draw those cards, and then cheat something into play.
That is a great idea, and I guess I didn't think of it that way.
I was looking at him as a commander. As a commander, he feels like something you run because you don't want to run Scion, but he's not better than Scion at all.
No.
I think he's worse. His Eminence ability is not great.
He screams new player.
This is I said Timmy's, but like this is the Timmiest of the Timmy dragons for sure. He's a lot to cast. His Eminence ability doesn't work that much, but when he gets out and hits for 10 and you cheat another giant beater dragon into play, that feels so good for Timmy to do.
And it's not just big dragon. It could be a land. It could be a artifact. It could be a planeswalker because it's permanent.
Talking about Scion, like there's 2 Scion builds. There's the Scion combo build where you're trying to do something like Molten Steel Dragon into Skithrix, the White Dragon, just to one-shot people.
Yep.
And there's people that are just playing Scion as a dragon tribal. You're just going to grab a useful dragon, whether it's a Tarka or whatever. If you're just playing like generic dragons deck with Scion, grabbing the Dragon seems like a really good choice a lot of the time.
Yes, I think the ability to draw, because you are playing 5 colors, so it's hard to slot in enough draw compared to how many dragons you're playing. Plus, being able to cheat in a dragon that could cost 7 mana is phenomenal.
Yeah, being able to, even though you're playing 5 colors, the triple blue on a Blue Sun Zenith is really, really hard to hit. Or the double blue and white off a Sphinx's Rev is a pretty steep mana cost to hit in a 5-color deck, unless you're playing with 10 duels and 10 shocks and 10 fetches and the perfect way to build a mana base, which most people are just not.
And more power to you if
you
do.
can, you can.
Right.
And I think if you have access to those kind of those cards for your deck, you're probably not playing the Dragon. You're playing something more degenerate, probably.
Legacy or Vintage.
Right. Yeah.
That's what you're playing.
So yeah, he's this will be the my first dragon deck. I think my intro to Magic. It's my first dragon, Mom.
Yeah, and I honestly think if someone sat down with that as their general, I'd probably be a little bit more lenient towards that player.
Yes, I agree. Number 1, because we're not going to get it out till turn 11.
You guys are crazy. Kill him. Kill him fast.
But also it's another thing, like you are in green, so you can ramp, I guess. But you're going to see this coming from a mile away. You're going to be able to like be there and just be watching, like, okay, I've got 4 turns absolutely until Dragon comes out.
Agreed.
I actually looked at the deck list for this deck. Out of all 4 decks, this has the most ramp spells in it. It has Kodama's Reach, Cultivate, it has Rampant Growth, and one other one. Like the 4 basics, it has all 4 of them in this deck.
It kind of needs it with 5 colors.
Yeah, for sure. And a Soul Ring.
Right. And I gave this thumbs down because I think his Eminence ability doesn't make sense. Dragons cost a lot to begin with. Reducing them by 1 doesn't do anything.
I mean, I think there's 2 ways to look at it. I think all of us are going to, yes, we're not going to give it a great rating. I do think it has a place, though. Like, there are some cards you look at and you're like, man, Anya Merciless Archangel doesn't fill a void, period. No one wants that card to exist. Dragon, I see who's going to run it. It's not going to be us, and it's probably not going to be people who listen to Commander podcasts. But there are people who are like brand new to the format and, super casual Timmies who just want to like throw dragons into angels. And this will be a great commander for them.
That almost seemed like a challenge you declared there to someone to
Dragons versus angels.
Build that deck and prove you wrong with him.
You know what? I have been wrong before. Maybe this will be the spikiest of spike cards. I just don't think so. So what else do we have for dragons?
We have Wasatora, Nakoru Queen. 2 colorless, black, red, and green. Max, stop that. Max is over here putting his hands together like he's warming up. She is a legendary creature, a cat dragon, flying and trample. Whenever Wasatora Nakaru Queen deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a creature. If the player can't, you create a 3/3 black, red, and green cat dragon creature token with flying. And she is a 5/4. So, thumbs up, thumbs down, high fives all around. What you guys thinking?
I'm gonna give her a thumbs up, even though I don't particularly know why I'm giving her a thumbs up. Oh,
Double thumbs up for me.
Double thumbs up. Max, I think your enthusiasm is going to make me go side thumb.
Okay.
side thumb. So why the double thumbs up, Max? Why are you so juiced for Watsatoria?
Kitty dragons. Hello.
Okay, that's
cool.
Good enough. That'll work.
And honestly, I like all around. This is just a fun general. It hits. It gets rid of something of theirs. They either don't want to lose or they have to make a decision to lose.
It's a very simple, clean, well laid out design. You swing at somebody, you have evasion, and you have trample on top of that.
Right.
So odds are you're getting damage through. They then choose. Well, they don't even choose. It's not a choice. If they have a creature, they have to sack one. If they don't, you get a token.
Yep.
So then you make the choice as you're swinging most of the time. Okay, this person who has Euro out, suited up, and no other creatures, I want to swing that way for sure to make them sack Euro. But if there's like no juicy target, do you want to, do you care if the token player sacrifices one token? Probably not.
No.
But if you can make a 3/3 flying token swinging at them, that seems like a pretty good deal.
I agree with that completely. I'm doing side thumb. Her abilities are all good, everything about it. But this just seems like a nightmare for me. I'm gonna be sleeping and I'm gonna be thinking about my cat as he runs around the house, jumping everywhere, and he's gonna have wings flying now.
Mine get into places where they shouldn't, and I'm pretty sure they have wings. So I'm fine with
You're already there. I don't know if as a commander, I think she really suffers from maybe not having a clearly laid out role. Like, what do? Do you build her tokens? Maybe.
Right.
I mean, you do have doubling season, and you have Perforos and Impact Tremors in those colors. So like, you could go tokens. Do you go some kind of force people to sack stacks build? There's better choices for that. Like, there's anything she could do. I think there's better choices for, but it doesn't make her not interesting.
No, I think she gives you the versatility to choose which way you want to go. Where, yeah, there's definitely a better force people to sack general in Jund. There's definitely a better flying token maker in Jund. Hello, that's Prosh.
Right.
But this one lets you do a little bit of everything if you really want.
Well, and it lets you. It is a bit of an answer in Scion. Like, if you have her in your Scion deck, and you need to make someone sack a creature, you turn Scion into her if they've only got one creature. I mean, it's some versatility in a Scion deck too. So
that is true.
As one of the 99, you might want to consider that.
Now, I do like the other ability, as we discussed earlier, that if a player can't sack, you get the 3/3. So that would go along the lines of Sigarda, or there's a green enchantment that prevents you from having to sack anything. So then, well, I don't have to sack, but you're still getting the 3/3 creature out of it.
Yep. Right, like her build, like the no sack thing doesn't render her useless. You still get the token, even if someone has no creatures out or has a way to prevent you from making them sack. I think the big downswing there is, I don't know what you do with her really. A little bit lore history. She is also from Dominaria. And has some connection to Kamigawa. I'm not quite sure I understand how that works, but some creatures went back and forth somehow between Kamigawa and Dominaria at some point way in the past. So
Tamio leave a portal open or something?
I don't
She's
know.
Jumping around?
That'd have been pre-Tamio, but like, there's Umezawa family. The main character from Kamigawa was the mono black. I forget his last name was Umezawa. And there's a Legends character from
She helped Tetsu.
Tetsu Umezawa.
Yep.
So she did. Okay, so she helped Tetsu, and he was a good guy, even though he was mono black. But like, he is a descendant who's in the Legends expansion, even though he came later.
Interesting.
So he left from Kamigawa and somehow wound up in Dominaria. So there's some connection there. So okay, so she probably was just from Dominaria, but she had some connection because of Tetsuo. All right,
Yeah.
Maybe
so
this
there we
goes
go.
back to what Max was saying with Urza and all that, and maybe this was just a nightmare of
There
some
we go.
sort that
Yep.
he was having. And
Cat dragons are a nightmare. So moving down the dragon list, I think we have 2 left. Chris, I think, wants to talk about the last one, so I will do Okagachi Vengeful Kami. Dragon Spirit for 6/6. Wooburg to cast, and one, so essentially one of every mana available, a colorless white, blue, black, red, and green. He has flying, he or she, I guess I'm not sure if it's a male or female, has flying and trample, and whenever Okagachi Vengeful Kami deals combat damage to a player, if that player attacked you during his or her last turn, exile a target non-land permanent that player controls. Thumbs up or thumbs down or toe thumbs or side thumbs? Or what say you all?
Side thumb.
Side thumb. Chris?
Gotta go with the side thumb too.
I'm going to go thumbs down on Okagachi.
Why thumbs down? Dana?
Okagachi's a pretty big lore character. He and or she was featured in the Final Judgment art back in Kamigawa, and that's like she was like a major, like the dragon, like bigger than the 5 monocolor dragons. I believe Okagachi was the powerhouse on the realm, and it doesn't feel that way. Like this card doesn't feel like the card they were hinting at in Kamigawa. It's supposed to be, I think, a political card, and I don't know if it really is that political. I feel like, I know it's supposed to discourage you from hitting the person who has Okagachi out, but I always assume that if I'm hitting somebody, they're going to hit me back anyway. So I don't know if it keeps me from doing it. But what do you guys think?
I give it side thumb because it is a 6/6 for 6 with flying and trample. Just based off of that, it is
That's a
good playable card.
Yeah.
The thing I do like about it, whereas you're talking about the ability, as a general, again, I'm going to revert back to the Scion build of, okay, you smacked me, I have Scion out. When I come at you, I'd be like, okay, you know what? Haha, sneaky, I'm going to drop this guy and smack you with him.
Well, it gives you the option in Scion, it's kind of like we said with Asatoria, it gives you the option in Scion to bring out a way to deal with a single problem permanent that's causing
Correct.
you issues. So that's useful.
I gave it the side thumb because, like Dana kind of said, there's no good build path, but it is versatile in the 99.
Yeah, it's a dragon spirit that doesn't do much with dragons or doesn't do much with spirits. If you want to run 5-color spirits, I guess it's your only option, so you can do that. If you want to run 5-color dragons, it's maybe the worst 5-color dragon option that there is, which isn't a reason not to do it. I mean, like, I like a challenge as much as the next person, but it's not an interesting challenge. It's just, to me anyway.
Yeah. I think you could do something cool with, like, using all exile removal in your deck, so nothing that says destroy or shuffle just. Because you're in all 5 colors. Every color has a little bit of exile somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you could probably abuse extra combat stuff with him as well.
That's true. If someone's not
You
ready
just-
for that.
Just keep hitting the same player that hit
Yeah.
you.
All right, we have one more. Chris.
All right. Now I'm doing the warm-up.
Now you're the one who's excited.
Ooh.
Okay. We have Ramos, Dragon Engine. 6 colorless. Legendary artifact creature. Dragon. Flying. Whenever you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ramos Dragon Engine for each of that spell's colors. Remove 5 +1/+1 counters from Ramos. Add double Wooburg, which is your white, blue, black, red, and green, to your mana pool. Activate this ability only once each turn, and he is a 4/4. So what are your guys' opinions on this one?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Definite thumbs up for me. Like quadruple. If I had more thumbs, I would be shooting them in the air right now.
So these are regular thumbs and toe thumbs and other thumbs if you had them.
Yep. If
So-
I was a 4-armed man, it would be 6 thumbs up in the air.
So why all the thumbs, Chris?
I just, as a colorless general in 5 colors, I can see so many builds for this. I'll take, for instance, I was playing a friend's deck that was 5-color planeswalkers. He's playing Progenitus.
Okay.
Now with this, since you're playing all those different planeswalkers, you're getting all these +1/+1 counters on Ramos, and you can take off those +1/+1 counters to all of a sudden, I'm going to drop a whole bunch more planeswalkers and then pump him back up. I think as a general, he plays really well into that color scheme.
I mean, without even like being complicated about it, if you have him out and you cast a 5-color spell, you put 5 counters on it. So now he's a 9/9 with flying, and you hit somebody, and then you go back to your second main phase and take 5 counters off and get 10 mana. So you buffed him for the hit on somebody, which is commander damage. You've made him a 9/9 for purposes of dealing command damage, and then you've just gotten back twice as much mana as you spent in your first main phase.
I agree with that 100%.
Even ignoring goofy shenanigans you can do with Rings of Bright Hearth or whatever, like that alone is like good value.
Yeah.
And the mana you get back is exactly enough for door to nothingness. So you can just win the game.
Why would you go there? Why would
Target
you go
player
there?
That's
loses
true.
the
Target player
game.
loses. That's true. So you just recur it next turn and do it again.
That Doretta you slotted in that deck.
You know, I kind of want to just do that and just smack Dana with it once and just be like, okay, we're done. We're done.
I'm taking Ramos apart. Well, and Ramos is nice too because it's the mana's going to your mana pool, but he costs 6 to cast colorless. You don't have to play a 5-color deck. I mean, maybe it's more efficient in terms of if you're playing a bunch of 5-color spells and you want to stack counters on him as efficiently as possible. But like, if you just can't find any white spells you care about, run him as a 4-color or a 3-color.
Yep.
I mean, 2-color, 1-color, it gets tough putting counters on him at that point. But at 3-color, definitely you can save a lot on your land base and make the deck a lot easier to cast your spells and still put a bunch of counters on it. 3 counters isn't nothing, and then two spells, once again, you take the 5 off and you're getting double your mana back. So he's just a good value in general. And he's a lore character too. This is another Dominaria lore character from the Brothers' War originally, and you've got cards like Tooth of Ramos that reference him, and then he pops up again during Evasion, so he could still be alive as well. So another lore character we could see this fall, or excuse me, this spring.
I was also thinking, with his ability, if it's not during combat and someone wraths the board, or even if you choose to wrath the board, you remove all the counters and just replay them.
Right, like if it's your first play and you've got the counters on him, and he's at 6, and you wrath to kill the board and remove the counters to add 10 to your pool, you still need a couple more mana to recast. Well, no, you can recast and have 2 to spare.
Yep.
So you're already ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, 5 counters on him, so you can recast him twice then before it doesn't equal out.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just a really useful card. And there's potential there to break it. There's weird trigger stacking things you can do to break this card.
I love it. Finally a colorless thing that we can play.
So that is Last of the Dragons. So let's talk vampires. And Chris, why don't you take our friend Edgar since you liked him so much?
All right, on to Edgar Markov. He is 3 colorless, 1 red, 1 white, and 1 black. Legendary creature, Vampire Knight. Eminence. Whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. He has first strike and haste. Now, whenever Edgar Markov attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. And he is a 4/4. Opinions, thoughts, views.
Thumbs.
Thumb up.
Thumb up.
Definitely a thumb up for me.
I do have I don't know if it's a complaint. He's a little bit basic, maybe. Like, there's nothing that complicated about Edgar. You make a vampire token. He buffs tokens when you swing. It's a pretty simple design. That isn't a bad thing.
No.
But we have some really cool, weird designs going on here, and his isn't that. But that doesn't make him not strong. Like, that Eminence ability is really, really strong on him.
Right. I mean, you play a 1-drop vampire and you make a vampire.
Play your 2-drop and make a vampire. And like, he's contributing to the board from turn 1, essentially. And then he has haste. So it's not like you have to wait around for him to come into play and buff your creatures. If you've made 3 vampire tokens and have 3 vampires out, and he drops on turn, even if it's just turn 6. But if you have any ramp and he's come out on turn 5 maybe, or turn 4 from a soul ring, and you're swinging with Edgar and 4 other vampires, all of which then get a +1 counter, that's hitting hard. And he's tough to block too because he has first strike.
Yes.
And he's a 4/4 body. That's huge.
And he'll be a 5/4 body by the time he hits because he gets the counter.
Yes. His ability reminds me of Drana from Return of Zendikar. I do believe that's the Liberator of Malakir.
Yep.
But she requires that you hit before you put +1/+1.
He gets them
counters on.
immediately on attack.
And he hits himself with the counter.
Right. Yes.
Unlike the cat that can't pump himself.
Yep.
Great art on Edgar too. I think it's a really good looking card. I think he's just really solid. I'm gonna try an Edgar deck. I think I have an original Draina deck, mono black vampires that none of the vampires like really interact with Draina. Most of the time, it just winds up being me making a bunch of mana with Urborg or something and killing somebody with Draena, which is fine. But like, I want my vampires to do things with other vampires. So I think I'm going to try Edgar. However, I think Edgar's strength might be in building like aggro weenie vampires.
Yep.
If you are trying to throw like Butcher of Malakir or Original Kalidas, who I think is 7 as well. Like if you're playing big vampires, you get a 1/1 weenie for it. But I think the strength here is playing 1 and 2 drops really quickly and getting a bunch of vampires out.
So you get way ahead on board compared to everybody else.
And then you have wheel access in red to refill your hand, or black has pretty decent draw. And if you're playing weenies, and if you don't care about having some non-vampires, there's like Mentor the Meek, also in white if you're playing weenies to draw off them.
Yep.
So I think the way to go is, instead of running a bunch of good vampires, run a bunch of cheap bad vampires.
That get better.
They get better because Edgar's swinging right away. And then if he has, if you have extra combat attack steps, if you want to do that, which I thought about doing in Edgar, then you're doubling up the counters, the counters that you're adding to your creatures. Or if you have ways to bounce those weenies, like Erratic Portal, or what is the one from Ravnica that when you play a spell, you can bounce a similar...
Cloudstone Curio.
Cloudstone Curio. So play your 1/1 weenie, make a vampire token, bounce it to your hand, the trigger in the stack, play it again. If it's a 1-drop, you can drop that thing 6-7 times in a turn pretty easily and make 6 or 7 tokens.
Yep.
And you're also in Impact Tremor colors, and you're in Anointed Procession colors, and you're in Cathar's Crusade colors.
So they just got big quick.
Right.
Now, would Panharmonicon double his trigger because he's not on the field?
I don't think so.
How the wording is, because it says whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield that causes...
Well, definitely not in his case because it's a cast trigger.
Okay.
But his is specifically a cast trigger, so you can't flicker him and bounce him to get the token to appear.
Yes. All right.
Thing I don't like about him, he doesn't fly.
He has no evasion unless you consider, first strike something that discourages blocking, but he has no evasion, correct.
And neither do the tokens.
The tokens don't have lifelink or anything. They're just 1/1 black vampire creature tokens.
They're fledgling vampires. They
Yes,
were just blooded. They don't know what they're doing.
They are weaker than his grandson Soren's vampires.
Speaking of Soren, that is one of the reasons another reason I really like this card is you are now officially in all the colors for flavor-wise to play every Soren.
Play all 4 Sorens. In lore-wise, since you mentioned that, this is Soren's grandfather. He was the first vampire on Innistrad. He's responsible for all the vampires, and he's probably still alive. They've never confirmed that in the lore, but he's never been mentioned as being dead, so he's probably still there.
Yeah, I suppose during the story of Nahiri going through the castle or whatever, when she destroyed the castle, you didn't really hear anything about him being dead or anything.
And Soren never mentions it, and you would think he would have, so.
Yeah, especially as you killed my father, payback.
Right.
Straight up Princess Bride stuff right there.
And then she sticks him in the wall. And
yeah, speaking of that, I wonder how he's doing in that.
Still hanging out in the wall. I'm assuming we'll revisit him at some point. So next, we have Lycia or Lycia or Lycia. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
I've heard Lisha.
Lisha makes sense. Lisha Sanguine Tribune. 5 and Mardu, so 5 red, white, black for a vampire soldier. Lisha Sanguine Tribune costs 1 less to cast for each 1 life you gain this turn. She has first strike and lifelink, and you may pay 5 to put 3 +1 counters on Lisha. Activate this ability only on your turn and only once per turn.
That's 5 life, correct?
That is 5 life. So, thumbs, everyone. What say you all?
Thumbs down.
Thumbs
I'm
down,
very
Max.
disappointed.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. I was thumbs down at first. I'm going to go side thumb. I've come around a little bit on Lisha. So, Max, why thumbs up?
She's the vampire that interests me. I don't know why, but I think there's a cool life gain deck that isn't Oloro. You could build with her, and then doubling her triggers or her activated ability. There's just a lot of fun, I think, in this general that it takes a little digging, but it's there.
I definitely think you're right in that vampires is not the way to go here. I didn't factor in C17 vampires, but prior to Commander 2017, there are only 14 vampires with lifelink, which is less than I would have thought.
Now, are you including Vampiric Link, the enchantment?
I didn't, and I didn't pay attention to Whip of Erebos or ways to grant it.
Oh, well, I'm just saying Vampiric Link because that's just flavorful
On flavor,
for vampires.
I didn't. So there's 14 straight up vampires prior to this set. So even if it adds, 2 or 3, and I think there was at least one, that's still only like 15, 16 tops that have lifelink. And of those, at least half are just bad. It's, a 2/1 with lifelink and nothing else for, 4 mana or something. So I agree. I think if you're going to build her, you do not want to get fixated on vampires.
No, I can see that completely. I dislike her due to the fact that she's 8 mana for a 4/4. Granted, yes, you can reduce it for each 1 life you gain, but you'd strictly have to build her on lifelink or gain life abilities to do something like that.
You can only use the counter thing once a turn. She's not in colors that can abuse counters like green, so there's no doubling season, or there's no, hardened scales kind of stuff. Although there is Catherine's Crusade, but white isn't nearly as good at that as green.
Correct.
However, assuming you pay your life most of the time, she's going to be a 7/7 to start with. So that's a 3-turn clock for commander damage.
Yep.
And 7 power and toughness means you can use Not of This World, which is a colorless counterspell that you can only use to save creatures 7 or more. So I would run that to save my commander for no mana, who's going to almost always be a 7/7.
True.
And that's useful, particularly in Mardu that doesn't have counterspells really, aside from a couple, bad mono white ones.
Yeah. I see that if you're not actually building a life gain deck around her, I think it's actually going to hinder you more with her ability of paying 5 life. I mean, granted, yes, you have 40 life, but 5 life, what is that? That's a tenth or whatever. A tenth of your life or whatever.
Yeah, but you got to remember, you pay the 5 life, so you go down to 35. You get the 3 counters. You're making that 5 life.
And you're swinging
True.
for 7.
You're swinging for
True,
7.
true.
You're
Yeah.
netting 2.
Okay, I
You're
can
right,
see
though.
that now.
I think part of the reason I was down on her at first was I was looking at it through the lens of being a vampire tribal commander, which she's not great for. There's definitely a life gain deck to be made, I think, out of her. Are you going to do that by chance?
I think I am.
I'd like to see that. I'm really curious because I've been entirely thinking of it in terms of vampires.
And I'm actually trying to look for the at your upkeep gain life cards, because then
Sure.
you've already gained it.
You're already ahead when you
You're
pay the
already-
life.
Right.
And you can technically copy that. You could copy that trigger, I think. It's an activated ability.
The pay life.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
So that might be worth considering too, because even though you're losing 10 life, then again, same math, you're putting 6 counters on her then at that point,
Right.
which you're gaining it back and you're hitting that much harder.
True.
And like we said, there is a few things in white that can abuse +1 counters. You've got a few things.
Yeah, a few things. The deck I always come up with when I think about lifelink is Karlov.
Yeah, and Karlov runs in this deck.
Right.
Oh, he does.
All right, we have one more vampire, I believe.
Yes.
Lay it on us, Max.
Mathis, Fiend Seeker. He is Mardu, a red, a white, and a black, for a 3/3 legendary creature, vampire.
So this isn't a vampire knight like Edgar
No.
or a vampire soldier
Like Leisha.
like Leisha. This is just a vampire.
Yeah, he's boring.
Is he pouring anywhere else?
Let's find out. He has Menace.
All right, well that's
off to a good start.
that's a keyword.
Yeah. And then he also has, at the beginning of your end step, put a bounty counter on target creature and opponent controls. For as long as that creature has a bounty counter on it, it has, when this creature dies, each opponent draws a card and gains 2 life. So, thumbs?
Thumbs down from me.
Do I have to talk about this one?
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay. Thumbs down. I will talk about it, though.
Unanimously, we are thumbs down on Mathis.
So I am going to ask both you two gentlemen why thumbs down, but I think I know your answer. Chris, why are you thumbs down on Mathis?
Because I don't want to help my opponent in a multiplayer game.
Max,
I would rather that they just be suffering.
why are you down on Mathis?
I don't like to help my opponents in a multiplayer game, and I would just rather see them suffering.
I am going to counter that by saying I don't want to help my opponents in a multiplayer game, and I just want to see them suffering.
Welcome to Commander Central.
We were talking about this with some people, some EDH rec writers are in Slack. We were talking about these cards, and I was mentioning how I don't want to help anybody, and I got compared to the Paul Ryan of EDH. I am all about
Wow.
making everyone suffer, and no one needs to be helped.
Totally who you are not in non-magic related context.
He's aggressively priced, 3 mana for a 3/3. That's the cheapest commander. Well, the 3 color ones anyway.
Right.
That's an aggressive cost. I think that's it.
Yes.
The menace is weird. Like how often he's not a Voltron commander. How often are you going to be swinging? I don't get that
If his
necessarily.
ability had something to do with combat, maybe.
Maybe.
But it doesn't.
Right. And here's where it goes wrong. If the Mathis ability worked so the person who killed the creature and the Mathis controller got the bounty, then I'd be much more willing to give it a go.
Because you're only helping one other person.
Right, and you're helping the Mathis person, you're hurting the person whose creature you're killing, and you're replacing presumably
A card.
a card. You've used your Putrefy or your Mortify or whatever to kill a creature, and you've drawn one back, and you've weakened an opponent at the same time. You can call it a wash. Like, you can say maybe for yourself, your resources have equaled out, although I would say they haven't. You've spent mana too.
Yeah.
But you've hurt one opponent and helped one opponent, and that's maybe okay math. But in a 4th-player pod, that 4th person is just like, oh, cool, free card, free life.
Thank you.
Right. Now, in a 1v1 situation, that's great. You're killing a creature anyway, and you might as well draw a card and get life off it. That's awesome. But we're not really talking 1v1. We're talking
Multiplayer.
4 or 5-player pods generally.
Yeah, I don't really see an upside. It almost seems like they had to build in card draw because those colors have horrible card draw with it. And it just leads to another horrible card draw card because you're helping your opponents with it as well.
Yeah. Well, also, doesn't it kind of make you not want to kill the creature then? If someone puts a counter on, this 2/2 creature over there, I'm kind of thinking, well, I don't want to kill it now because I'm going to help everybody else. There are times when it's going to actively discourage you from killing creatures.
Solemnity just shuts this guy down.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No bounty counter.
Does Solemnity say any type of counter?
Any
Counter. Yep.
Oh, man. I really don't like that card any more than I did when I first heard about
But
it.
I wouldn't I'm not going to care about your Mathis. But what I'm going to maybe do is just kill you. You're playing Mathis and, oh man, you're going to help other people. I don't like that. I'm going to kill you.
I mean, the best I could see him as is sidekick in a deck. And that'd be about it if you're looking for extra card draw type of deal. Or if you're just looking to play a chaos game and
Sure.
anger your opponents who aren't really, they're trying to win the game and you're just trying to screw it up.
Well, like Lisha too, he does nothing with vampires. Not that every card needs to, I guess, but like the cat generals all really synergize with cats pretty well.
Yep.
Or at least with each other. Mathis just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird build.
That, I think, covers him.
Yeah.
And that covers vampires.
It does.
So next up, the last tribe, wizards.
Yeah, on to Hogwarts we go.
Exactly.
You're a wizard, hey?
Wow, that was pretty good. That was a good accent. I like that.
I tried. I've been practicing all day.
Yeah, nice. We have Inala, Archmage Ritualist, for 2 Grixis, so 2 blue, black, red. We have a legendary creature, a human wizard, and her eminence ability is whenever another non-token wizard enters the battlefield under your control, if Inala, Archmage Ritualist, is in the command zone or on the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do create a token that's a copy of that wizard, that token gains haste, and exile it at the beginning of the next end step. You may also tap 5 untapped wizards you control. Target player loses 7 life. So, position of thumbs. What does everyone say?
Thumbs down for me.
Side thumb.
I'm gonna say thumbs up, I guess.
Are you doing this just so we can have a conversation?
That's not a very forceful thumb. No, I mean, I kind of like her. Like, I just don't know. Number one, it's not really my play style. I think you want to build her as a combo deck, and that's not my thing. The reason I would say thumbs up, though, is I think you can kind of build an interesting Brago-like Value Town deck where, Brago, particularly in Max's deck, he's almost exclusively running stuff that he can blink and gain value off of. And the same thing here, like, I think you'd want to run as many ETB wizards as possible so you can play your Archaeomancer and bring 2 things back, or play your wizard that draws you a card and draw 2 cards or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, tweak that with a Penharmonicon and a Conjurer's Closet and maybe Rings of Brighthearth or whatever, so you can like double put abilities. And then those wizards, tap a couple of them before the end of your turn to do 7 damage before they get sacrificed.
Yep.
Or run Sundial the Infinite so you can keep them. So I think there's cool stuff you can do with her, but I think everyone is going to want to run combo.
Yeah, I can see that. I dislike her because in my mind, wizards should be mono blue, running around as Zami. It's just, I have a friend of mine who plays that, and I love his deck, even though it's horrendous to play against, and we usually kill him immediately. But it just, in my mind, I'm just like set on that. But as you're bringing everything up, I can see where you could go with it.
But I don't think that's going to be the common build. I think the common build is going to be bad Azami. It's going to be not a good version of Azami, I think is what you're going to see mostly.
I totally agree with that.
Well, man, that was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
What else do we have?
We have Kess Dissident Mage, 1 blue, black, red, for a legendary creature human wizard who is power and toughness 3/4. She has flying, and also during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. If you cast the card this way, it is to be exiled instead of going to the graveyard.
I feel, well, let's do the thumbs here. I'm going to go thumbs up.
Thumbs up for me.
Thumbs up.
Snapcaster every turn seems good, right? That's good? Is that good? I don't know a lot about stuff, but
No, I mean,
No,
seems
I
good.
mean, it's the reason that, everyone just plays Snapcaster. It's just a horrible card.
Right.
I don't
They
understand
do
it.
that in Legacy, I think, and I don't play Legacy, so it must be good.
right. I assume anything that gets played in Legacy must be good. She's not a lore character as far as I can tell, so I think she's brand new. And, she's pretty aggressively costed. That's 4 mana for a 3/4 with flying. That's pretty decent.
The evasion is nice on her.
Yeah. Much like our previous wizard friend Inara, I think she lends herself to combo or storm. One of those two, probably.
I can see that. I mean, I see her as pretty much just Value Town. In a singleton format where you have 99 singleton cards, you actually are getting, 2 of the same card.
Yep.
And there's a lot of stuff like not that Lightning Bolt is terrible, but there's enough situation, particularly outside of competitive EDH, where Lightning Bolt just doesn't get the job done. It doesn't kill stuff there's a lot of things over 3 and it doesn't do the job. 1 mana for 3 damage doesn't finish it, but 6 damage for 2 mana is a whole different thing. So I think there's a lot of those situations here. 2 mana for double brainstorms
Right.
or double ponders. I mean, that's pretty decent. Let alone if you're like, okay, I'm going to wheel and draw an extra turn card, which I'll cast. And then with my extra turn, next turn I can cast my extra turn spell from the graveyard and then wheel again and hopefully hit another extra turn. That's not perfect because a lot of the extra turn spells exile themselves, but
Yes, they do.
and at that point, maybe you just want to be playing Narset and doing that anyway.
Yeah, but Narset kind of lends herself to being hated out.
I-
Whereas this might catch people off guard
Right,
a
this
little
might
bit.
not, although I could see it eventually going that route. But Narset's annoying just no matter what, whereas like Kess doesn't have to be.
So I have a question for you guys. I'm looking at this art. Does she have no feet?
I think she might be floating.
It looks like she's like
Floating and
I'm going right back to the Hogwarts. She looks like one of those.
Dementors.
Yes.
She could be. That could be what it is.
See, I just thought this was like Hermione if she sided with
Evil Hermione.
with Voldemort.
I like it.
The floating potions and everything, like that's baller.
There is kind of a
Oh,
similar...
those are potions. I thought they were rocks.
Yeah, they're potions. There's a similar card, Dralnu Lich Lord, and you can cast spells on other players' turns. I think it's 1 per turn.
Yep.
But he has a caveat: whenever you take damage, you sacrifice that many permanents. So that's not great. If someone hits you with like a Earthquake for 9,
Oh.
assuming you don't have a counterspell handy, that deck. The assumption is you're pretty frequently going to have counterspells available in your graveyard. But I feel like Kess is a much safer version of that. That's probably 90% as effective and radically more effective defensively.
Right.
Yeah, I can see her. If I were to build around her, I wouldn't build her as super competitive. I build her more as fun.
Sure.
Where you can like double exsanguinate to save yourself, or just keep getting your life up, or
Well, and you could very easily just pack her filled with like all the creatures that care about instants and sorceries. Put in your Mizzix of the Nivmagus. Melek is a Paragon.
Yep.
You can run, Arcanus in this deck. You can throw just a lot of like spell slinging type wizards that care about instants and sorceries. The Chimera from
the Spellheart Chimera.
that cares about the number of instant sorceries in your graveyard. I mean, so you could just go with a spells matter kind of theme too.
Be a true blue wizard right there.
Yeah. So, she's a solid card, but I think you'll just see a lot of weird combo builds with her. Speaking of weird combo builds,
Ooh.
let's talk about Mersil the Pretender. He's a legendary creature human wizard. He is 1 and a Grixis, so 1 blue, black, red for a 4/4 When Marisol the Pretender enters the battlefield, you may exile an artifact or a creature card from your hand or graveyard and put a cage counter on it. Marisol the Pretender has all activated abilities of all cards you own in exile with cage counters on them. You may activate each of those abilities only once per turn. So thumbs, how are they placed?
I'm going to go side thumb.
Thumb up.
Thumb up for the card. And the reason I side there, I don't like it myself. I have no interest in playing it. I think it's going to be a really complicated deck, and it's going to be a complicated deck to play against, trying to figure out what's exiled off it. And you're not going to be able to borrow it from one of your friends because you're going to really need to specifically know every card in the deck and what certain sequence that you're supposed to exile them to achieve whatever weird combo of things they want to achieve to win. But I mean, it's interesting for sure. I can't deny that it's a cool card.
No, I think it's amazing, the card build itself, but honestly, with like abilities that you have to exile with her, a card with that, it's going to cost mana to do it, or it could cost tapping, and it's probably going to set you back more than it's going to push you forward, in my opinion.
The abilities never go away, so like the more stuff you exile, the more abilities Marisol has, but you have to have the cards in hand or your graveyard too, so you have to have another strategy of being able to tutor things up or just self-mill to have access to the particular cards you want. And you can do cool stuff. I mean, exiling a Nev disc and then Soul of New Phyrexia lets you tap Marisol to destroy permanents and then make them indestructible, the ones you control with a soul ability.
Why would you give everybody that idea?
Oh, Lord.
I'm sure there's like much more horrible combos than that. But you have to get those cards. You have to get them in the right sequence, and you have to like hope that people let you do that. And
well, you are in black, so you are in your really good tutoring
colors. You do have
colors.
great tutor colors.
Plus this blue, you should be able to filter through quite a few cards as well.
I think he'll be just kind of annoying to play against.
It's going to be extremely skill intensive.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's going to be cool to see someone pull it off.
I think you will consistently see things from deck to deck to deck that you hadn't thought of, and you'll play like one person's Marisol deck, and they'll tend to go for like these same few interactions. And you'll play someone else's, a month later, and they'll have totally different cards they're doing and different sequencing and stuff. So I think you'll see a lot of different individual cards in the deck.
You think this deck's going to turn into more of a Dirtle deck?
Could easily definitely be a Dirtle deck for sure.
I think the big reason that'll happen is since when he dies and you recast him, you still have all the stuff you exiled.
So it's gonna take the player longer to decide what he's gonna want to do.
One thing I do want to mention is Marisol is another lore character, another one from Dominaria. He's referenced in the art for the Barl's Cage card from the Dark. For a dozen years, the cage had held Lord Ith, but as the Pretender, Marisol's power weakened, so did the bars. So that's why it's a cage counter, because he caged the Lord Ith from Maze of Ith fame in a cage and used his abilities. So it's a cool like lore trigger there, where they've found a way to take that creature and who's referenced in the lore and make him into something that ties back into Dominaria again. I like that a lot.
I wonder if they did that, tying everything back to Dominaria, because we are going back. I wonder if they're trying to psych it up.
It feels like breadcrumbs. This isn't just like, if it was one or two cards, I would just say, there's just a lot of Dominaria lore, so it's easy to tap into. But there's like 6 or 7 of these that are Dominaria based. So yeah, I think it is. So we have one more wizard from the wizard block, I think, here.
Yep, and we have one from the dragon block we didn't do.
So.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. And we'll explain why we forgot about him.
So first we'll do the wizard. And this is Tigum Sidisi's Hand. 3 blue-black for a human wizard. Skip your draw step. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And for a black, you can tap and exile X cards from your graveyard, and target creature gets -X until the end of turn. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Double thumbs up for me.
Double thumbs down for me.
I'll just go single thumbs down. I'm not like...
Such a hater over there, Max.
Yeah, I am.
So why the thumbs up, Chris?
I like this card. Now, I'm not basing this on him being a commander, but I love this card for a Tassiger build. With Tassiger's ability to allow you to have an opponent choose a card and bring it back, With Tigum sided beside him, you can pretty much filter the cards out of your graveyard you don't want.
And do something with them. You're not just filtering them out, you're using them to kill something.
Yeah, and even worse comes to worse, I know we brought it up earlier about hexproof and all that, like what we play against a lot. You can kill your own creature to force them to
get
give
cards
you
out?
the good
Sure.
card back.
How about you, Max? Why the thumbs down?
For pretty much the exact opposite reason Chris just said. When you have to exile 5 to 7 cards to take care of the big threat,
Right.
that's a lot of cards.
His ability, I mean, the first time you use it, you're going to like get rid of 3 lands and kill something, kill a commander that's
Right.
annoying, whether it's, Glissa the Traitor or Brago or something. But then it starts getting lean for cards in your graveyard. Like, you're not going to that often have a fetch land you want to pitch and something else.
Routinely, you probably are not going to have enough cards you voluntarily want to exile out of your graveyard to take down the Air Dragon.
Right.
That's true. I do see, though, a lot of people that I play against, they don't use their graveyard as a resource. People use their life, other stuff as resources, but your graveyard's there to be used. And
For
if
sure.
you're not going to bring anything back, say you're not playing a Tasker build or something that's reanimating stuff, you have just yet one more resource to do something with.
I think as a commander, the problem is Gisan Geralf and the Scarab God kind of play in the same space at the same casting cost. I don't know if there's a reason to run this Tigum over either of those two. And I don't know if he really wants to be in those decks either, particularly if those decks are zombie focused and you're dealing with, kill all non-zombie creature kind of spells, then this is just one more non-zombie in the deck, and I don't know if it adds anything your commander doesn't already do.
I can see that. Yeah, when you're talking about the other builds for those colors.
So this is the Tigum from the Dragons of Tarkir timeline as he currently exists. But the one card we skipped from the Dragons deck is Tigum from the original Khans of Tarkir timeline.
Correct.
He does not exist anymore.
He does not exist, but the card does.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have Tigum, Ojutai Master. He is 2, a white and a blue for a legendary creature, human monk, with a 3/4 body. He reads, instant sorcery and dragon spells you control cannot be countered by spells or abilities, along with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, if Tigum Ojutai Master attacked this turn, that spell gains rebound. Thumbs?
Side thumb from me.
I'm going to go thumb down here.
Thumb up.
So why the thumb up, Max?
I see something here, I just haven't chiseled away the stone to find exactly what I want to do with him.
Okay.
He has his downsides. He doesn't have evasion. He has a decent sized body, but he doesn't fly. He doesn't have first strike. He doesn't have haste. Anything that might help protect him a little, but
To get the juicy rebound trigger, you need to swing.
Yep.
And that's tough to do to keep him alive without any evasion.
Right.
But rebound is also pretty nice.
It is pretty nice. I see rebound with that ability for combat tricks, such as we'll stay in white since he is white-blue. Mighty Leap, for example, which gives a creature +2/+2 in flying.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd make him a 5/6 with flying, which now gives him rebound.
Right.
For the next turn, you can cast it again for free, or even a card draw spell or anything like that.
Yep. What I do think would be cool is using reconnaissance with him.
Just take the attack
you
trigger and
just
then
have
pull
to
it
get
back
the
out.
trigger and
Yeah.
then pull it back.
Or even talking
Interesting.
about attack stuff like Polymorphous Jest.
Yes.
You're always willing to cast that off rebound,
Yep.
and then people aren't going to be blocking you with their snakes at that point, and then you can next turn cast it again for another combat trigger off Tigum.
Yes.
The dragons thing seems weird. I mean, he's in the dragon deck, so he makes dragons uncounterable, but I'm not sure he's worth a slot in the deck. I think he'll be the first card people tear out of that deck and put in a dragon in his spot.
I would agree with that 100%.
I just don't know if he quite has a home as a Azorius, some kind of a Azorius Spellslinger deck, maybe.
Yep.
I guess there's nothing else that does that, really. So maybe.
I could see it in your 1v1 formats. It seems like it would be a good counter to Brawl. Seeing how Brawl's a tier 1 deck that a lot of people play, and it's playing a lot of counter spells and everything. This prevents your spells from being countered.
Sure.
And then you get your white to do your other shenanigans, so you're not stuck in mono blue. So you get your removal instead of just bounce and stuff
And
like
Baral
that.
is running a lot of bodies, so it's much easier to swing with Tigum into a Baral deck than it would be against other decks.
That is true.
I think that's all I'm going to say about Tigum. I've got nothing else to add.
I have nothing.
Nor do I.
So before we close out here, we usually do some kind of a sign out question, hypothetical, whatever. And I mentioned that if I could change something on Mathis, I would change it so that fourth freeloader person didn't get the card for doing nothing. So is there any of these commanders that you'd like to change something on? Whether it's, adding a color, moving a color, or changing their ability slightly, like obviously not rewriting the whole card, but is there one thing you could tweak that you would tweak?
Chris, you can go.
Okay. I would change the Dragon. He has so much potential, and it's just all wasted. I mean, his ability, I wish that it would read something along the lines of cost 1 less to cast for each dragon you control. Or even since he's already got that attack trigger where, let's say you attack with 5 dragons, now your next dragon spell costs 5 less to cast, or something along those lines.
I think that each dragon you control thing actually sounds strong, but if you're letting somebody put 5 dragons in play and not responding to it,
There's a
they're
problem.
going to kill you anyway. Like them saving 5 mana on dragon spells is just going to make them kill you more. You've let things get out of control at that point. Maybe not, but like that doesn't feel. It's a strong ability, but I don't think it's maybe too strong. And then you could like tweak down one of his other abilities to counter it. Yeah, that makes sense. How about you, Max?
I would change the Demir Tygum's ability instantly.
So much hate.
I do. I would want to see. I like the skip your draw step. I like the anticipate thing.
Yeah.
I think somehow the ability needs to be modified so it costs more. 3 and a black, 4 and a black, tap, and it should be changed to something where you choose a card to exile and target opponent's creatures get -X, where that's the CMC of the card.
Or even maybe you exile, tap and spend X to exile, and you exile a card with that CMC. So if you got to spend 5 mana to exile a card that's 5 CMC, and then you give a creature -X. So if you're exiling your lightning bolt, well, it's giving it -1/-1, but it only costs 1 to do it.
Right.
If you're exiling your 5-drop, then it costs 5 mana to use it, but you give it -5/-5.
Right.
I think there's ways to make it work better, because as it's written right now, you're going to use it a couple times and be out of gas.
Right.
The one I would change is I would like it if every instance of vampire on Edgar Markov's card said Vampire Knight, because he's a Vampire Knight, and if he made Vampire Knight tokens, and if when he attacked, he gave all vampires or knights a +1 counter, you could use him as a knight commander. And I don't think it would make him any stronger. If you want to throw a Blood Knight or a Black Knight into your vampire deck, well, then you just do that. There's not a lot of synergy with anything else. They also then don't get buffs from your Lord of Lineage or whatever. So I think all it would do was let you run him as a vampire, as a knight commander.
Yeah.
And there isn't a good knight commander right now that interacts with knights, and they could have very easily made him one that did without making him any stronger.
Yeah, I can see that. That would be phenomenal, giving you more than just one option to run, because he's pretty much based into as a vampire commander.
Particularly because the other 2 vampires don't interact with vampires either.
No, they don't.
Right?
No.
So I don't understand. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with all 4 of these decks.
As am I. I pretty much will probably only buy 1 or 2 of them at the most, though, this time.
I probably will as well.
Probably get 2. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll be back next week talking about the rest of the cards, the ones that aren't commanders, and see what we can do then. Until that time, I am Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris. And I'd like to shoot a big thank you out to Juan for getting a hold of us on Facebook. Thank you very much.